Podría ver si Chona está todavía en la cocina. Que ella podía venir un rato conmigo. I'd like to have her, we're going to have you translate if you don't mind, because but she was in on this thing, full tilt. And if we could get her to come in tomorrow morning, that'd be good. And she'll give you some stories and some things. She was there. Lost her husband in 81. And we had 10 kids hiding from death squads in the church. And just touch on this one up in Quiche. Somebody had to go and get them. She said, I'm going. I said, John, you can't. You got 3 children, and I'm going. She went and got them. Told the military checkpoints, the soldiers, get out of the way. I'm taking my kids. Of course, you know, they're young Indian kids, and they know better than cross a Maya Mama. So they went away. But anyway, let me go into this just a little bit now to show what is happening even today and one of the dangers that we have to face and realize. Rather than dividing the world into these 5 cultures, and as you mentioned earlier, when you come down, you kind of have, there's some kind of a sense of that, well, I think that's sharing another culture that brings that about. What we've done, instead of this dealing with those 5 categories of cultures, we've really divided the world in half. We have the rich and the poor, the first and the third, as I mentioned over there. And then there's that famous statistic. We have 80% of the world's resources are used by 20% of the world's population, leaving then 20% of the world's resources having to be shared by 80% of the world's population. I've read where that statistic comes from. I've forgotten. I didn't mark it down. But it's seen commonly in any kind of social justice and integral human development writings. So what we've done in the dividing the world in half is we don't get a real good picture. Oh, okay, gracias. And the bad thing about it is we're in an age of globalization where we really have no excuse. Globalization is not based on economics. The globalization is actually based on communication. The globalization of our own era. Globalizations anywhere are going to be dealing primarily with communication. You know, we're in an age of history of the earth, the history of the world, the history of civilization. There's a phenomena going on every day, and it's hard to even imagine. We can sit down on a television set and watch something going on in color with sound on the other side of the world with a 4-second delay. And when you think about that, we take it for granted because we do it all the time. And then there's that terrible, frightening phenomenon where you sit down at a typewriter and put some words on a screen, push a button, and instantaneously, on the other side of the world, it's on somebody else's screen. Even when it's cloudy. When you stop thinking about those things, you're just amazed. And then what is communication for? You ever think of that? How come there's communication? What do you think? Shona, ¿usted va a poder platicar un poco con ellos?
Sí, ¿cuándo quieren?
Mañana.
Mañana.
La mayor
Sí,
parte se van.
Sí.
Mañana después del mercado.
¿Qué día es mañana? ¿A las 3 está bueno?
Buena tarde.
¿O ellos quieren en la mañana?
When do you think it's best? 3 in the afternoon, or do you want it in the morning? What's good for everybody? 3 in the afternoon? In the morning she has to go to market.
¿Está
She
bien?
gets the food and she owns the market, so yeah, to bring it to mercado. Ok, a las 3 de la tarde.
¿Está bien?
Y tenemos una persona para ti.
¿Está bien?
Ok,
Está bien, dale.
gracias, esperamos. Get her to do that for you, and then she'll really get into that. And appreciate it. And so what is communication for? The musical The King and I tell you that. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you. And a soliloquy that's played out as beautifully as you're going to get. You know what is, we've got this British teacher going to teach the children from Siam. And she said, if we're going to have any teaching going on, any learning, we got to get to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to love you, getting to appreciate you. And then when she's talking marriage, even more so, getting to know you. Otherwise, you can't have any kind of relationship. And so that's why it's so terribly important for us to realize this globalization we're blessed with is to help us understand and appreciate other people. Not make them like us because we need an expensive labor and we need a market for our seconds. Well, that's not really what you want. That's what we want. It's written up in a very fine little booklet on a program called the Puebla, Panama. The World Bank has put together and broadcasted through Fox when he was president of Mexico, which is to change Central America into a dry canal by starting with pipelines, truck highways, speed trains from Panama to Puebla, Mexico. And then the other way across, dry canals. The same thing. So that if they're able to bring the things that are made inexpensively in Asia across the isthmus to get onto the ships on this side where they can get to the markets in the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and Western Europe. Plan de Puebla, Panama just destroys everything we have. But anyway, so these are the kinds of things that we got. If we could come to know people instead of come to use people, I think it would be really good. Well, what has happened then in these two parts of the world? How do we look at it? And the liberation theologians are put into that again. Two of them, Boff brothers, B-O-F-F, Argentinian, Brazilian writers, Clodovis and Leonardo, their names, they're brothers, Franciscan priests, excellent writers. They wrote a little book called Introducing Liberation Theology, 1970, published by Orbis. It's a real thin one, but it's a real good book to get a handle on liberation theology, on understanding it. They were asked the question, and they responded to it in that little book. Well, what does this first world think of the third? Or the rich think of the poor? Or the North thinks about the South? Or the 80-20 thinks about the 20-80? And the answers they came up with was they, first of all, they look at this through the empirical eyes. Empirical not in the sense of top down, but empire and then down. Control. An empire is going to control. Huh? And so with these empirical eyes, how do you see those people? Well, they're dumb and lazy. We don't use that terminology, but that's what they are. They show it in logos, like the fella in Mexico with the sombrero over his eyes, his knees up and leaning against the cactus, because it's the land of mañana, land of la siesta. I don't know what they do with those thorns in his back. Okay, is it kind of a sign? Well, do you really mean that? Well, no, but that's the way it is. So how do you deal with that charity? Not like Benedict's going to talk about charity in any way whatsoever. Love received and given. But the fellow sitting on the corner selling pencils out of his sombrero, you toss him a quarter and you say, hey buddy, I had a great day today. Keep the pencil. That kind of charity. Way too common, really. And then the functional eyes. And that's where, well, you're the way you are right now because you're, I'm going to get back to this word, uncivilized. You're not like we are, huh? Like we said, we talked about during the time of the encomienda system. So we've got to get you to make the quantum leap into the 20th/21st century. And we'll teach you how. We'll show you will program you to death. Spanish word, and I flinch because you hear it so often. Capacitación. To do this project with coffee, we had to be capacitado in raising coffee. We had people come and tell their people that raised coffee. The people here were born in coffee fields. So you come in from the U.S., from Canada, because you have this knowledge of agriculture and teach them how. Come on, guys. Now, where are we at? But anyway, that's the problem. One world or one civilization cannot tell another world or another civilization how to act because they don't understand. They can't understand. That's the difference. You just come to appreciation of both. Oranges can't tell apples how to taste, for goodness sakes. That's up to the apple. And then dialectical. That's the tough one. That's when the people become the subject. That's when you have to ask them, why are you living like this, for goodness sakes? And they'll tell you, according to the Boff brothers, because we are oppressed. And that term, coming from all of these things that I'm telling you about the encomienda system, etc., etc. And I want to translate that word oppressed into, we cannot live the life way or the culture we want to live. Here in Guatemala, it stands out loud and clear. We are Maya. We must have a direct relationship with Mother Earth. Our story of creation tells us that, for goodness sakes. And that's how we cooperate with Creator God in the continuation of creation. That's part of our spider web. 94% of the land in Guatemala is in the hands of 7% of the people. And a more recent statistic, these are government statistics, by the way, another one put together by the commission that investigates the economics of the nation, has told us 80% of the arable land in Guatemala is in the hands of 2% of the population. Like that gal from Madrid was able to find their doctoral thesis. Most of the land grants that were issued by the crown in the 1600s are in hands of the heirs of the original recipients. Until we do something here, forget it. We keep trying, almost everything we deal with is here. That's the major effort of governments, the World Bank, the International Development Bank, the International Development Fund will tell you how to do it. You can't because you don't know. You're not living our culture. Listen to us. Yeah, but you're dumb and lazy, for goodness sakes. That's how come you're poor. It's a terrible attitude, and it's one that we all, literally, we all struggle with. And all these years I'm here, I'm still an American by culture, and it's never going to change. And so I have to watch that. I have to watch that. Early in our stay, we had a conference given by two anthropologists over in Panajachel. We were a bunch of Americans here, and so it was given in English, and there are two anthropologists, one from Mexico and one from the U.S., and good anthropologists, and both, of course, the Mexican also very competent in English. And so the Americans that spoke English, the missionaries that were here in this diocese that were English speaking were invited. And they gave us a week's seminar, full seminar, a course on the Mayan culture. Never dawned on me, we were living in the middle of Maya, there wasn't a Mayan person there to help teach, except one. But he was just there as a listener, an observer. His name was Jesus Ahu, A-J-U, Quiche Indian person. He was a member of the Benedictine orders. He was being formed into a Benedictine brother first, and then spending some years, and eventually do some theology and become a Benedictine priest. That was the plan. Well, he eventually left, but he was one of the first. Real wonderful guy, smart, really sharp, but very proud of being Maya, of course. And he was participated because he understood English very well. He participated in this conference. Well, at the end, we were each asked to stand up and give our own observations. And I thought this was a marvelous conference. I really did. I was overwhelmed. So I stood up and waxed eloquently about the quality of the teachers. And so did everybody else. And then we came to Chus. He was the last guy, called Jesus Ahu Chus. And Chus is a fairly tall guy. And he wore that Benedictine habit that has the scapular down the front, and that's all. When you sit down, it's all going. And Chus never did anything fast in his life, never. And so when he was standing up, it was very slow, and I was waiting for that scapular to be straight, and then I knew he'd be standing straight. And so I was kind of watching that, and then he got up, and then he opened his mouth. I want to welcome all of you people to be here with me and my people. You're welcome. I want to welcome you to learn to like our food, to enjoy it, to appreciate it. I want to welcome you to enjoy our food and to appreciate it. I want to welcome you. If you'd like to, you could learn our language if you'd like. Welcome you to. But there's one thing I want you to understand, and it's very firm. You will never be a Mayan Indian because you have not nursed at a Mayan mother's breast. Don't ever forget that. He sat down. Wow. The danger we all face. You're never going to understand fully. You're never going to be an integral part of, to the point of an outsider being accepted, yes, but no more. As some anthropologists have put it, you gain your culture, you get your culture, you earn your cultures through your mother's milk. And Chus laid that down before us to think about. It's something that's been a help, a guideline, and appreciated learning, teaching, I should say, teaching on Chus's part. And so we struggle. Is this the best program in the world? No. If in that sense that you can't improve it, sure you can, you must. Gotta grow. It's the best that I know how to be involved in, yeah. Otherwise I'd change it, try and do something else. But that doesn't mean I have all the answers, even any of the answers. But some of the things I tried to learn from the people teaching. As you can see, it wasn't a case of doing things the way that you normally do because of the situation that was involved. But do I think they were good? I do. I appreciate it. I'm very grateful to people forever for it. And so we will continue to struggle. And we appreciate very much your being here because of what your presence does to a people suffering in the process of poverty. Your presence here helps build their self-image because they see you, who are university students, and you don't have to do this. You don't have to come around and paint walls or throw rocks. That's what we do. We're the people here, we're the poor. But you've been willing to leave family and friends and come among strangers. You've been willing to leave the bed in the room you like to sleep in and stay where you're put. And you've been willing to leave divanis and come and eat the food that is put before you, and you have no choice. And you pay money to do that. Oh, come on. That's not unlike hitting yourself on the head with a ball-peen hammer because it feels so good when you stop. People realize that. And so they're always asking, talking. And they say, why did they do this? And the only thing that can come up is that they want to be with us. And if they want to be with us and make that effort, we can't be all that bad. And that's what builds self-image. And your presence does that. Now, they're not going to come up and say, hey, thanks for building my self-image, my self-esteem. No. But that's one of the advantages of being old and being around a long time. They talk about it in various and different ways. And that's what is so very, very much appreciated. And so with that, and since my mother was Irish and my dad's mother was Irish also, I get to say one more thing. I'll just talk a little more than I'm supposed to. I'm thoroughly convinced that it was the widows of this country that kept it together during and after the overt violence of 79 to 85 that Shona will talk to you about tomorrow. And I found a group of them who do this weaving, a little bit of weaving in their households, and they have taught their daughters now because they're getting on in age, but this is little extra income. What is it? Don't know. What can you use it for? I don't know. But is it pretty? Yeah. Is it a little added income for the widows? Yeah. So I purchase at no questions. And then I give them away so there'll always be a market. So you got to give them away too. Okay? There's a big one. You can keep that. There's a middle-sized one. 2 of them. You can keep one, and one you got to give away. And there are 5 little ones. You keep one, and 4 you got to give away. And you can choose to whom you wish to give. That's just fine. But you got to give them away. And if you don't, Ishmukane is going to give you nightmares like you never had. Ishmukane is grandmother God, and she's tough. So I'm going to put these out here. You spread around so that each take one along. As a tribute to these great, great people who've done so much for their country and really kept things safe. I'll just spread them out. I'll take back what you don't take, so I got them for the next group. Be sure and get one, everyone. You kids from Milwaukee, be sure and get in on one.